Imagine waking up tomorrow and finding out that water is no longer free. Imagine a price tag of $200 for a single glass. People are lined up around the block begging for just one sip.
If water were sold like wine, every senior would fight to buy it every morning. Imagine waking up tomorrow and finding out that water is no longer free. Imagine you walk into a store and there is a glass case, the kind they use for fine wine, and inside that case sits a single glass of clean water with a price tag of $200. People are lined up around the block. They are arguing with the cashier. They are begging for just one sip. Now ask yourself this question. If water suddenly became that rare, that expensive, that fought over, would you still be skipping it the way you do right now? Would you still be reaching for coffee first thing in the morning and telling yourself you will drink water later? Because here is the truth nobody wants to say out loud. The thing keeping millions of seniors tired, dizzy, confused, constipated, and rushing to the hospital with chest pain that turns out to be nothing more than dehydration, is something that costs almost nothing and sits in every kitchen in America, in the United Kingdom, and across Canada. We have been so blessed with access to clean water that we have stopped respecting what it actually does inside an aging body. By the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why your body begs for water differently after 60, why thirst stops being a reliable warning sign as you age, what happens inside your organs the moment you finally give your body what it has been asking for all along, and the small daily mistakes that quietly drain your fluid levels without you ever noticing. Good morning, and welcome back to Seniors Wellness Secrets, the channel where we break down the everyday habits that quietly decide how strong, how clear-headed, and how independent you feel as you age. If this is your first time here, we talk about the kind of health truths that doctors rush through in a 7-minute appointment, but that actually deserve a full conversation. Today we are talking about water. Not in the boring way you have heard it explained 1,000 times, with a generic reminder to drink 8 glasses a day and nothing else. We are going deep into what dehydration actually does to an aging body, why it is more dangerous now than it was when you were 30, what your medications might be doing to your fluid levels without your knowledge, and what you can start doing this morning to change how you feel by tonight. Let's start with something most people do not know. As you get older, your body's thirst signal becomes less reliable. When you were younger, your brain was excellent at sending you a clear message the moment your fluid levels dropped even slightly. That message was thirst. But research on aging shows that the part of the brain responsible for detecting dehydration, the hypothalamus, becomes less sensitive over time. This means by the time a senior actually feels thirsty, their body may have already been running on low fluid for hours, sometimes even a full day. This is one of the most overlooked reasons why dehydration hits older adults so much harder and so much faster than it hits younger people. You are not imagining it when you feel like your body does not warn you the way it used to. It genuinely does not. And this is not a small detail. It is the entire reason why dehydration is so common among seniors who otherwise believe they are taking good care of themselves. They are waiting for a signal that simply does not arrive on time anymore. There is another layer to this that rarely gets discussed. As kidneys age, they naturally become slightly less efficient at concentrating urine, which means older adults can lose more water through urination, even when they are not drinking excessively. Combine that with a blunted thirst response, and you have a body that is losing fluid faster, while also failing to ask for more of it. This double effect is part of why dehydration in seniors can escalate from mild to severe far more quickly than people expect. What might be a minor inconvenience for a 30-year-old, a missed glass of water here or there, can become a genuine medical concern for someone in their 70s or 80s within the same single day. Now let's talk about what is happening inside your body when fluid levels drop, because this is where things get serious. Your blood is roughly half water. When you become even mildly dehydrated, your blood volume drops slightly, and your heart has to work harder to push the same amount of blood through your body. This is why so many seniors experience dizziness when they stand up quickly, especially in the morning. It is not always your blood pressure medication causing that lightheaded feeling. Sometimes it is simply that your blood has become slightly thicker and harder to circulate, because you did not have enough fluid overnight. Your heart, an organ that has already worked tirelessly for 60, 70, 80 years, should not have to fight against thickened blood on top of everything else it manages daily. Over time, This added strain is not something your heart simply shrugs off. It is a daily tax on an organ that deserves support, not extra resistance. This connects directly to something many seniors are prescribed without being told the full picture. Diuretic medications, often given for high blood pressure or heart conditions, work by helping your body release more fluid through urination. This is medically necessary for many people, but it also means that seniors on diuretics are at a significantly higher baseline risk of dehydration than people who are not on these medications. If you are on a water pill, as many people call it, and you are also not deliberately replacing fluids throughout the day, you may be creating a situation where your medication and your daily habits are working against each other rather than together. This is not medical advice to stop or adjust any medication. That conversation always belongs with your doctor, but it is something worth mentioning directly to whoever manages your prescriptions, especially if you have noticed increased dizziness, fatigue, or confusion since starting a new medication. Then there are your kidneys. Your kidneys are the filtration system of your entire body, and they depend almost entirely on adequate water to function properly. When you are dehydrated, your kidneys cannot flush out waste products as efficiently, and this is one of the leading reasons seniors develop urinary tract infections, kidney stones, and in more serious cases, kidney function decline. Many people assume kidney problems are purely an age-related inevitability, but doctors who specialize in geriatric care will tell you that chronic mild dehydration is one of the most common and most preventable contributors to declining kidney health in older adults. Your kidneys are not failing you. In many cases, they are simply not getting the water they need to do their job. Emergency room physicians frequently report seeing seniors admitted for what initially looks like a serious kidney event, only to discover after fluids are administered that the kidney values return to nearly normal within hours. The kidney was never permanently damaged. It was simply starved of the one resource it cannot function without. Let's talk about your brain because this might be the part that surprises you the most. The brain is approximately 75% water. When you become dehydrated, even mildly, brain cells temporarily shrink in volume. This is not a metaphor. It is a measurable physical change that has been observed in research using brain imaging. This shrinkage affects how quickly your brain processes information, how clearly you think, and how well you remember things you just heard 5 minutes ago. Many seniors who report feeling foggy, forgetful, or mentally slow during the day are not necessarily experiencing the early stages of memory decline. In a surprising number of cases, they are simply dehydrated. Caregivers and family members often notice this pattern without realizing it. Grandma seems confused in the afternoon, but sharp again the next morning after a full night with fluids reabsorbing into her system overnight. That swing is not random. It is dehydration rising and falling throughout the day. This is one of the most important things any family member or caregiver can learn, because dehydration-related confusion is frequently mistaken for the early stages of dementia. There have been documented cases where seniors were on the verge of being evaluated for cognitive decline, only for a simple increase in fluid intake to resolve the confusion entirely within days. This does not mean every memory concern is simply dehydration. Real cognitive decline is a serious medical reality that deserves proper evaluation. But it does mean that hydration should always be one of the first things checked before jumping to more frightening conclusions, because it is the easiest variable to correct, and the one most often overlooked. Now think about your joints. Cartilage, the cushioning material between your bones, is made up largely of water. When you are dehydrated, that cartilage loses some of its cushioning ability, which means your joints rub against each other with less protection. This is one of the quiet reasons knee pain, hip pain, and lower back pain can feel worse on certain days. People blame the weather, they blame old age, they blame yesterday's activity level, but very few people stop to ask themselves a simple question. How much water did I actually drink today? Cartilage cannot regenerate its cushioning if it is not getting the raw material it needs, and that raw material is water. For seniors managing arthritis or general joint stiffness, hydration will never replace proper medical treatment, but it is a quiet, free contributor to comfort that is almost always left out of the conversation entirely. Let's also talk about digestion, because this is something almost every senior has experienced but few connect back to hydration. Your digestive system relies on water to keep things moving smoothly through your intestines. When fluid levels drop, your body pulls water from your stool to preserve fluid elsewhere in the body, which leads directly to constipation. This is one of the most common complaints among older adults, and it is frequently treated with fiber supplements or laxatives when the root issue is something far simpler. Without enough water, fiber alone cannot do its job properly. Fiber needs water to bulk up and move waste through your system. Taking fiber without enough water can sometimes make constipation worse, not better, because you end up adding bulk to a system that does not have enough liquid to move that bulk along. Your skin tells the story too. Skin naturally loses elasticity with age, but dehydration accelerates that process. When your body is short on fluids, it prioritizes vital organs first, and skin hydration becomes one of the lowest priorities. This is part of why dehydrated seniors often notice their skin looking more papery, more fragile, and slower to bounce back when pinched gently. While no amount of water will reverse the natural aging of skin, consistent hydration genuinely supports the skin's ability to maintain elasticity and resist breakdown, which matters enormously for seniors who are also more prone to skin tears and slow-healing wounds. Caregivers in assisted living settings are often trained to check skin turgor, the way skin springs back after being gently pinched, as a quick informal indicator of hydration status, precisely because the connection is so well established in clinical practice. There is also a connection between hydration and temperature regulation that becomes more important with age. Sweating is one of your body's main tools for cooling itself, and sweating requires adequate fluid levels to function properly. As people age, the body becomes less efficient at regulating temperature in general, which is part of why heat waves disproportionately affect seniors every single year. A dehydrated senior in hot weather, whether that is a summer afternoon in the southern United States, a heat wave in the United Kingdom, or a humid stretch in parts of Canada, is at meaningfully higher risk of heat exhaustion and heat stroke than someone who is properly hydrated. This is not a seasonal detail to ignore. Public health data consistently shows spikes in heat-related hospital visits among older adults during warm months, and dehydration is almost always sitting quietly underneath those numbers as a contributing factor. Let's bring this into a real story, because numbers and biology only mean something when you can see them play out in someone's actual life. Think about Margaret, a 78-year-old woman living alone in a quiet suburb. Her family noticed she had started seeming distant during phone calls, sometimes forgetting what they had just discussed minutes earlier. They worried it was the beginning of dementia. Her daughter took her to several appointments, and through the process, a nurse asked one simple question: "How much water do you drink in a normal day?" Margaret admitted she mostly drank coffee in the morning, and maybe one glass of water in the evening if she remembered. She did not feel thirsty most of the day, so she assumed her body did not need fluids. Within 2 weeks of intentionally increasing her water intake and tracking it with a simple marked bottle, her family noticed she sounded sharper on the phone. She remembered details from previous conversations. She felt steadier on her feet. Nothing about her medical diagnosis changed. The only thing that changed was her water intake. There is a second story worth mentioning, because it shows a different angle of the same problem. Richard, a 73-year-old retired teacher, had been dealing with what he described as random dizzy spells for almost a year. He had seen his doctor twice, had his blood pressure medication adjusted once, and still the dizziness continued, particularly in the late morning. It was only when his daughter started keeping a simple log of his fluid intake that a pattern emerged. Richard was drinking 2 cups of coffee before 9 in the morning, and almost nothing else until lunch, by which point he was already several hours into mild dehydration compounded by caffeine's diuretic effect. Once he added a large glass of water alongside his morning coffee and another mid-morning, the dizzy spells became dramatically less frequent within the same month. Stories like Margaret's and Richard's are far more common than people realize, and they are part of why this topic deserves more attention than it usually gets. Let's address a few myths directly, because misinformation about hydration is everywhere. The first myth is that if you are not thirsty, you do not need water. As we covered earlier, thirst becomes an unreliable signal with age, so this myth is particularly dangerous for seniors specifically. The second myth is that coffee and tea do not count toward hydration at all. the truth is more nuanced. While caffeine does have a mild diuretic effect, moderate coffee and tea consumption still contribute some fluid overall. It simply should not be your only source of fluid for the day. The third myth is that drinking large amounts of water all at once is just as good as spreading it throughout the day. In reality, your body can only absorb and use a certain amount of fluid efficiently at one time. An excess is often passed through urination relatively quickly. Spreading water intake evenly across the day supports more consistent hydration than trying to catch up with one large glass in the evening. So what can you actually do starting today? The first and most practical shift is to stop relying on thirst as your signal to drink. Since your thirst response becomes less reliable with age, the better approach is to drink on a schedule rather than waiting to feel thirsty. A simple method many seniors find helpful is keeping a marked water bottle nearby and aiming to finish specific amounts by certain times of day, for example finishing one bottle by lunchtime and another by early evening. This removes the guesswork and turns hydration into a habit rather than a reaction. Second, pay attention to color as a guide. Light pale yellow urine generally indicates good hydration, while dark yellow or amber-colored urine is often a sign that your body needs more fluids. This is a simple visual check you can do without any special tools, and it tends to be far more reliable for seniors than waiting to feel thirsty. Third, consider hydrating foods as part of your daily intake, not just liquids in a glass. Cucumbers, watermelon, oranges, soups, and broths all contribute meaningfully to your daily fluid intake. For seniors who struggle to drink large amounts of plain water, food-based hydration can make a real difference without feeling like a chore, and it has the added benefit of bringing extra vitamins and minerals along with the fluid itself. Fourth, be mindful of caffeine and its mild diuretic effect, especially if coffee or tea makes up a large portion of your daily fluid intake. This does not mean cutting out your morning coffee, but it does mean being intentional about adding water alongside it rather than letting caffeine be your only source of fluid for the day, the way Richard was doing before his daughter noticed the pattern. Fifth, set reminders if you live alone or tend to get distracted throughout the day. Something as simple as a phone alarm labeled water time, or pairing a glass of water with something you already do every day like taking morning medication, brushing your teeth, or watching a favorite television program, can build hydration into your existing routine without requiring extra mental effort. Sixth, if you are on any diuretic medication, blood pressure medication, or any prescription that affects fluid balance, bring up hydration specifically during your next appointment or pharmacy consultation. Ask directly whether your current fluid habits align well with what your medication requires. This single conversation can clarify confusion, dizziness, or fatigue symptoms that may have been quietly misattributed to other causes for months or even years. Seventh, during warmer months or any period of unusually hot weather, increase your fluid intake proactively rather than reactively. Do not wait until you feel overheated or unwell. Treat hot weather as an automatic cue to add an extra glass of water to your normal routine, regardless of whether you are spending time outdoors or simply sitting in a home without strong air conditioning. If there is one thing I want you to remember after watching this video, it is this: your body is not betraying you as you age. In many cases, it is simply asking for something basic that has quietly been overlooked. Water will not reverse every health challenge that comes with aging, and it is not a replacement for medical care when something is genuinely wrong. If you ever experience sudden confusion, severe dizziness, a rapid heartbeat, or fainting, that is a sign to seek medical attention immediately rather than simply reaching for a glass of water and waiting. But for the everyday fatigue, the afternoon fog, the achy joints, and the sluggish digestion that so many seniors quietly accept as just part of getting older, water is one of the few things within your control that costs nothing, requires no prescription, and supports nearly every system in your body at once. Imagine treating your next glass of water the way you would treat that $200 glass behind the glass case. Not because it is rare, but because you finally understand what it is truly worth to your heart, your brain, your kidneys, your joints, and your skin. If this video helped you see hydration in a new way, do us a huge favor and subscribe to Seniors Wellness Secrets. We are just getting started here, and every single subscriber genuinely helps us reach more families who need to hear exactly this kind of honest, practical health guidance. Drop a comment and let us know. What is one small habit you are going to change starting today after watching this? We read every single comment, and we would love to hear from you. Thank you for spending this time with us, and we will see you in the next video.